Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending the Florida Native Plant Society December Lunch and Learn. I'm Valerie Anderson, the Director of Communications and Programming with the Florida Native Plant Society. We have these monthly lunch and learns as supported by our membership and donations. And I just want to start by saying we had a killer Giving Tuesday. We raised over $8,000, and I'm just really grateful for everybody who pitched in. We had a Giving Tuesday, just donate $2, and that went over really well. And so thank you everybody for your small donations and your large donations, of which we had quite a number. We still have our annual fund drive going on. So if you're able to contribute, that is just, if you go to our website, that's the pop-up, and it's also the link you're guided to if you go to the donate page. So I'll pop that link in the chat as soon as I get the presentation going. So we have some upcoming lunch and learn scheduled. So this one, obviously, we're doing it a little early because of the holidays. And then we're back to our end of the month schedule for January. On the 30th, we're having Joanna Freeman from the FWC Fish and Wildlife Research Institute talking about her ground cover restoration research, her and her team's ground cover restoration research. And then on February 27th, we have Owen Schneider, who had to cancel from a family emergency last month. And he'll be talking about From Traits to Flames, Leaf Traits, Plant Strategies, and Plant Flammability across Long Pine Key in the Everglades National Park. So more fire stuff. I know you guys like that. And it's a good research topic area. And then haven't firmed up the schedule yet, but in March or May, we'll have Citizen Science Amateur Mycology with Scott Ostoony. He recently presented to the Magnolia chapter, and it went really well. So learn how you can get involved with amateur mycology and gene sequencing, which is very cool science. So this presentation was presented at our 2025 conference, which happened this spring, and I really, really enjoyed it. And so I asked Alexa if she would like to rehash it or just set it up with the slides so that they're really easy to read with her presentation from the conference. And so this was live recorded. There was a few camera issues, but I made those a little bit smoother in the edit, and I hope you really enjoy it. Alexa will be joining us before the Q&A starts. So please feel free to post your questions in the chat. Email them to me, communications@fnps.org, if you don't want to log into Google. Totally acceptable. And I'll check the email, and we'll do the Q&A. This is a pretty short presentation. The conference presentations were short, so 32 minutes. And then we'll have the Q&A. All right. I hope you enjoy.
Our programming at Grow Hub and how to build people-plant connections using native plants. First, with the topics at hand, I want to just acknowledge that I don't own any of this knowledge. A lot of this comes from just ancestral knowledge from the indigenous people that lived here before us. Am I doing okay? Okay.
I just need to get, you can keep going.
So all the indigenous people that lived here before us, a lot of this knowledge that we're going to talk about was basically common sense at some point in time. And we have spent a long time trying to relearn some of these things, and we put labels on them. But just to acknowledge that, this is, in some people, ancestral knowledge. And we want to just engender a nature of respect and just gratitude for people that came before us. Thank you. Oh, it's not showing up now.
Take you off.
All right, no worries. And with that comes humility and just rolling with things that come. All right, thank you so much. Another great inspiration for this presentation is Robin Wall Kimmerer's book, The Serviceberry. If any of you haven't read this book or heard of Robin Wall Kimmerer, I would suggest just check her out. She is a great Potawatomi plant ecologist, very wise, and The Serviceberry is a wonderful book, and she goes in to kind of analyze the comparing the market economy and the world that we live in to ancestral economies, gift economies, and, in the ways that we can interact with our neighbors to support all living beings in the ecosystems that we reside. So the quote I want to share is, "To name the world as a gift is to feel your membership in the web of reciprocity. It makes you happy and it makes you accountable." And I think this is one of the more important quotes, although the whole book is really worth a read. But to kind of acknowledge that we are a piece of the puzzle. We aren't at the top of the food chain, though we might want to think so. To kind of embrace that we are a part of a whole can help to kind of engender these feelings of respect. And again, yeah, to name the gifts of the earth as they are, it brings a different relationship with those things that we receive from the earth. And so we can, increase feelings of, gratitude for these things that we receive. We are more likely to protect them and want to share those gifts with other people. So embracing, reciprocity and making sure that we are giving as much as we are receiving are really important aspects, I think, that we can all learn. All right, so now to contents of this presentation. We're going to go over a bit of GrowHub as an organization, talk about the different operations and collaborations that we offer, overview of the practice and benefits of horticultural therapy, and the benefits of including native plants in that practice. And so that's, again, my experiences. I'm a horticultural therapist, and I work with the staff at GrowHub to kind of help train job skills, but also to work on, environmental and horticultural knowledge as well to be able to build job skills. All right, so GrowHub, if any of y'all are not familiar, we are a plant nursery on the east side of Gainesville. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. GrowHub, some people don't know, is an acronym, and it stands for Growing Real Opportunities for Work, Harvest of Urban Business. And so that really explains kind of a lot of what we do. We're trying to create more opportunities in the community for our target population, which is adults with disabilities. And we want to do that through collaborating and working with other organizations that also see that as a meaningful goal. So our mission, again, is to just cultivate and empower adults with disabilities for sustainable living through education, job training, and job opportunities. We currently have 17 adults with disabilities on staff and 6 supervisors. So we are able to provide meaningful work and a paycheck to 17 individuals, which may not have that opportunity elsewhere. And we want to serve as kind of an example as the way, other organizations could include some of these practices. If you come to our nursery, you'll see it's just like every other nursery, only most of our staff might have different abilities. And that's something that a lot of people are somewhat amazed at when they come to the nursery. They have lower expectations, which I think is kind of emblematic of how we kind of treat people with disabilities in society. We don't always have higher expectations for what we think that they can achieve. And a lot of what we want to do is to just have people realize that you should have the same expectations for a person with disabilities as you would for your own family member or yourself. You want them to have meaningful work opportunities, social opportunities, educational opportunities. You don't want them siloed and not interacting with society. We know that, being a part of a community and having gratitude for that community is going to engender more mutual respect. And just, if one person flourishes, we all can flourish. So we're just on the east side of town. We're located on Alachua County School Board property, right behind their transitional campus for students with disabilities. So we're uniquely positioned to help serve these students as they reach transitional age, which is 14 to 21 technically, and give them an opportunity to learn hands-on skills. And they can also learn those skills at the Farm to School to Work program, which is funded with the Alachua County School Board, but also with Food and Nutrition. And they do offer some of similar training opportunities with the goal of having students work in food service or other food jobs. And we have roughly 80 acres of beautiful forest land and nursery space. So here's a nice aerial photo. I don't have a pointer, but this is a very old photo, but I wanted to kind of point out on that far side, we share space with our collaborators. So Working Food, I see Melissa over there, are one of our kind of first collaborators. They do seed education. They grow seeds on the property on 3 different seed gardens. I don't have a pointer. They have 3 seed gardens on the property, and we also share a space with Beaten Path Compost, which is one of the city of Gainesville's composting contractors. And so we just want to kind of engender this feeling of collaboration. We wouldn't be here without the help of our collaborators. Oh, wow, thank you so much. And we just have a really interesting property. So we back up to Morningside. So like this area over here is Morningside, like conservation area. This way up the road is school campus. We have Lofton High School like on this end. But also I'm going to share, so this property has a really interesting history. It was used as a training area space for students at Lofton High School. And it was in use from the 70s. And after a couple years, I want to say 2014 maybe, the programming ended. And so it was vacant for a couple years before Grow Hub began in 2016. And we've been able to use a lot of this original infrastructure. So this greenhouse structure was original. This growing space, there's an old greenhouse here that we had to cut in half because a tree fell on it. I have another greenhouse right here now. It's not in this picture. This is a very old picture. That's our natives grow out greenhouse. And here is Working Food Seed Garden 2 area. We also have a community garden that sits like right here. And our native section is now, it used to be right here. It grew to us needing to have like this back corner, and now we've expanded it to like this whole area. So we're going to talk a little bit about the natives program at Grow Hub and how it's kind of just continued to grow, and we are learning from that support from the community. All right, so what does Grow Hub do? Again, we're a retail and wholesale nursery. We originally started focusing on just ornamental perennials and grew to provide fruit and nut trees, veggies, and increasingly more Florida natives. We do seasonal pop-up markets. We partner with local artists, food vendors, just to bring the community to Grow Hub. Because what you can't see in that aerial photo is we are at the dead end of Northeast 8th Ave. So you really can't just drive by and see us. You really have to mean to be there if you're gonna come. We are at a dead end. You have to pass through some speed bumps and some gates, and a lot of times people get a little concerned that they're getting to the right place. But that's part of the beauty too, is we are secluded, we are enveloped in a blanket of nice woodlands around us that makes you feel like you're away from the city. And so that kind of adds to the therapeutic atmosphere. And again, one of the main things that we do is collaborate with other agencies. So this is just a really short list of our collaborators. Working Food and Beaten Path Compost first as our kind of main collaborators and using the space. It's all shared. And then second, University of Florida, the UF Arts and Medicine program comes once a week and does art classes with our staff. They create projects and art pieces that we sell in our art shop to help support the programming. We began partnering with the Agribility program, which is a great collaboration with the USDA and universities that helps to support farmers with disabilities and how to maintain their operations. And so typically their focus is, say, on acquired disability. Say a farmer has a stroke and loses ability to use half of their body or loses some kind of muscle function. They work with creating assistive technologies to help farmers continue doing what they love, which is farming. So we want to, encourage more and more people to enter agriculture and horticulture, because we don't want these large corporations to just kind of continue to, create monocultures. We want a healthy agriculture ecosystem includes many different operations. We also partner with the College of Nursing. They work with our staff every year on a public health project, usually focus on nutrition. A lot of our staff are older, and so they have different comorbid chronic diseases that they might experience. There's a lot of intersectionality between disability, chronic disease, and aging. And so it's important to kind of, highlight that the health of our employees is really important to us. And, the longer that they can work with us in meaningful ways, the better for us and them. We also partner with the Florida Wildflower Foundation. We're a part of the Florida Association of Native Nurseries and the Native Plant Society. All right, so now we'll go into a little detail of what is horticultural therapy. I'm gonna assume most people aren't super aware of horticultural therapy. It again goes back to putting labels on some of this ancestral knowledge. But I think it's really important to kind of highlight that this is a growing profession. I completed my certificate in horticultural therapy at UF in 2021. I want to say I finished. I was a part of the first cohort of students. And so we've seen that program grow in interest and attendance. Students from all over the world. I had classmates in Hong Kong, in Canada, all over, were attending this online certificate program with me. And so, while it is kind of a small niche community, it's very broad, and people are doing aspects of horticultural therapy all over, not always under the name of horticultural therapy. But first we'll just go into what is the definition. Horticultural therapy is just the engagement of a person in gardening and plant-based activities facilitated by a trained therapist to achieve specific therapeutic treatment goals. So the important term there is treatment goals. So the same way an occupational therapist might work with a patient to work on specific treatment goals, a horticultural therapist can hold the same kind of role in an interdisciplinary team. So they can work on specific physical goals, mental goals, to try to create, more recovery from certain ailments, or even just promoting wellness. And it's important to note that horticultural therapy can take place in a variety of contexts and with a variety of populations. My experience before I worked at Grow Hub was in skilled nursing facilities and memory care. And that's obviously very different from working with adults with disabilities in a vocational setting, but a lot of those concepts still are very important. So just the focus on building physical capabilities as well as cognitive and mental. You see the benefits across all populations and contexts. And just to list a few more, you could have a horticultural therapy practice in a hospital, a rehab center, a skilled nursing facility like I mentioned, or it could be a botanical garden or a business like Grow Hub. So it really doesn't matter where it's happening. It just matters how it's happening, the process, and who is trying to lead that charge. So going further, a horticultural therapist like myself is somebody that has a background in either plant science or psychology and human science, and has completed roughly 500 hours of internship in a relevant program. I completed my internship at Grow Hub back in 2021, and I got to just learn to love working there, loved the staff, and didn't want to leave, so they were able to hire me, which is not always the case with a lot of horticultural therapy interns. It's a very small field, it's a growing field, but there's, you kind of have to make the case for your own involvement in certain projects, because some people aren't really aware of what horticultural therapy might be. And kind of a little bit broader as therapeutic horticulture. So that's not necessarily having to be led by a horticultural therapist. The AHTA, the American Horticultural Therapy Association, has a new kind of designation called a therapeutic horticulture practitioner to try to make these practices a little bit more accessible to folks that maybe not able to receive a 4-year degree, and recognizing that you don't have to have a 4-year degree to know that this is beneficial. You know, there's lots of just common sense practices, but it's also important to recognize that it takes some training in, you know, working with people and plants and promoting like safe and therapeutic atmospheres. And so therapeutic horticulture could be like directed by a horticultural therapist or another professional. And it's a broader use of the therapeutic nature of horticulture, and it doesn't necessarily require individual treatment goals. It could be a broader group goal just to kind of promote social or mental wellness, but it's not an individual say, I need person A to focus on fine motor skills because they're recovering from an orthopedic surgery. It's just kind of more broad, noticing that, you know, these practices can benefit everyone. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about the benefits. Kind of the first thing that I always think about is sensory stimulation, and something that's super important to me is how our brain kind of indicates this importance of plants in our evolution. So the hippocampus is where primarily like our long-term memory is stored and organized. A lot of memories have to be encoded differently than olfactory or smells memories. So the way that our sense of smell is tied to our long-term memory is very important, and that's something that was, you know, something I used every day in skilled nursing and memory care. You can engage the senses so much easier through the sense of smell, and that in turn causes a cascade of, say, you know, associated memories. Like all of the time working in memory care, you might have an individual that is completely checked out, completely maybe not aware of their sense of, you know, being in a memory care. They might think they're at home. They might not be aware of what year it is, but you engage them with a piece of rosemary and automatically they are taken back to their childhood, the herb garden that their grandmother had. And that was just always the most powerful thing that I noticed when I was working with individuals, is how we are tied to our sensory perception of this world. And when you know, focus on specific things, you can kind of increase awareness of those. Another, you know, important benefit is creativity, especially in these places like skilled nursing. A lot of people aren't given opportunities to make choices. A lot of your day is prescribed to you. But in this little microcosm of, you know, when I would come, I was the plant lady, I would be bringing these therapeutic horticulture activities, and they are given this space to make decisions on what they want to do. What do they want to put in the garden? How do they want to, say we would do flower pounding. How do you want to decorate your card? You're given just a multitude of choices where in outside areas of your life, you might not be given that opportunity. And that ties right into self-esteem. When you're able to make decisions about your environment, it improves your self-esteem. And that's something I always go back to, is when you're feeling stressed and, you know, like you don't have a lot of control, like we might feel a lot of the times, go manipulate your environment. And to me, a lot of times that's go weed or go engage in the garden. All right, and so this is just a great visual I want to share with folks. I won't really go much into it, but kind of highlights the interconnectedness of how we engage with horticulture, either passively or actively, and how that all stems back to our innate kind of association with nature in the form of biophilia. This is further kind of outcomes research, just showing that there is, you know, very clear research that working in horticulture, and specifically therapeutic horticulture, has just long-lasting benefits, improved pain management, enhanced recovery, and these stay with individuals post-treatment. Again, just a little bit about therapeutic horticulture at Grow Hub. We use horticulture as a tool for building independence. And back to kind of just the practice, the goal isn't the product, the goal is the process. The process of working with plants is the therapeutic aspect. It's not the final product. So just the work that we do at Grow Hub is the therapeutic process. And the product that we get to sell beautiful plants to the community and connect with others is a nice to have thing, but the goal is to engage people in horticulture and provide them with meaningful activities. And our native plant program is one of our newer programs, started in 2020. We have expanded our inventory from only 20 plants. I kind of highlighted how small that section was at the beginning in that aerial photo. It's nearly quadrupled in size now. And that growth is just due to the support from our community. We partner with local landscapers, Be Good Landscaping, and we work with Chiappini's nursery. We're part of this interconnected group of native nurseries in our local area, and we only benefit from furthering those connections. This is a great picture. On the left is our first native plant section, and that now houses just our fruit trees. But Kathy Paterson and Bruce Proctor were very, very important volunteers in helping us start the program. And Kathy Paterson still is. She still comes out and volunteers, and sadly Bruce passed away, but his impact is still seen at Grow Hub in the wonderful woodwork projects he has provided us, and just the long-lasting effects of being there when it was the beginning, helping us get started. Here's a little bit more kind of into the benefits, not just of horticultural therapy, but how does incorporating native plants into horticultural therapy kind of add to maybe synergistically increase these benefits. And something I think is most interesting is just feeling connected with nature is associated with environmental sustainability and pro-social behaviors. So the more we feel connected in our local ecosystem, of which we all are a part of, the better it is for everyone. So flourishing is mutual when we are all putting in the effort to improve our local ecosystem. And again, native plants, as you all know, are very practical. They, require a lot less interventions. They're a lot more drought tolerant, and they are again a part of the ecosystem. They belong here, and local wildlife realizes that. And so when you kind of increase use of native plants, you're going to see a lot more kind of natural interactions with those plants. That's something sometimes people complain, I would say, about something's eating my native plant. How do I stop that? And it's that is a good sign. That means that plant has found its partner. Its relationships are, being shown in just, that interaction. It's not a bad thing that your plant is part of the ecosystem. It's a good thing. That means it's supporting the food chain. It's that's the foundation of our ecosystems as plants. Just going further, this is a really cute graphic, even though it's not about native plants, but it shows some life lessons we can all learn about plants. It's okay to be different. Don't hesitate to advocate for your needs. And I also want to just share some examples of horticultural therapy or therapeutic horticulture activities that you could incorporate native plants into. And these could be used in a school setting. Doesn't have to be directed by a horticultural therapist. Anyone can use this knowledge. You can use your senses to practice native plant identification, incorporate aspects of the honorable harvest. That's something that Robin Wall-Kimmerer kind of describes very well in her writing. That I think is just lessons that we can use outside of working with plants. And, one of the favorites of that is don't take all that's available, be aware that other people may rely on these resources, and share it as the earth has shared it with you. That's part of that reciprocal nature and these gift economies that are present in wildlife. There is no expectation of return directly, but within the ecosystem, things are reciprocated and eventually come back and help you. and further more activities, physical rehabilitation. You can grade activities based on somebody's physical abilities and focus on what specific areas they need to work on. Propagation is great for fine motor skills. Physically planting a tree, everyone can, attest to that's a full body workout. So there's lots of different ways you can get creative, but it's just important to note that these are accessible activities, and just the way that you frame them, the metaphors you bring up, they can, provide meaningful impacts to people that will be, felt long term. You'll never forget, the first gift that somebody gives to you in the form of educating you about native plants and, the importance of them. This is just another great table, maybe for some of the organizers in here, of public outreach activities that were shared by a native plant society in British Columbia. This paper is very, very, very detailed in how organizations can be using these ideas to kind of expand the reach of this environmental consciousness that we, again, know improves the, people wanting to do environmentally pro-social behaviors. So getting the word out there that it's important to kind of be involved in these activities and why. And just final 2 slides. It's just safety and consideration. So one of the important things when learning about horticultural therapy is just keeping everyone safe. As we know, there are certain plants that are toxic, and these 2 plants that I've shown here are toxic. So you would want to avoid yellow jessamine and perhaps yapon berries when you're, say, working with a population that might be inclined to eat things that you put in their hands. That was my experience in memory care and skilled nursing. I wasn't allowed to bring a plant that had any toxicity, even if it could just provide a mild tummy ache, because you don't know what somebody's going to put in their mouth. And so that holds true for working with children or people with disabilities. You got to know your population to be able to provide them with opportunities for success. And that's another important thing, is opportunities for success, not feeling like a failure because your propagation failed. You need to kind of give people workable plants and give them opportunities for, immediate success, not always waiting for a seed to germinate. There's better ways to kind of increase, anticipation and feelings of success. Again, just universal design principles. There's lots of research on therapeutic gardens and how making them accessible to everyone, especially people with like mobility issues. It makes it more enjoyable for everyone, even if you don't have a mobility disability. And adaptive tool modifications and cognitive supports. That's something we work on a lot at Grow Hub, just being aware that people have different styles that they learn best. And implications. So what I hope that y'all can learn from this is that there is research already, but there's need for more quantitative research so we can further kind of prove the importance that this practice using native plants and horticultural therapy has. The importance of integrating indigenous knowledge systems into like program development and conservation. In Canada, they do a great job at incorporating indigenous voices into their policy work and managing forest lands, because they know that these people have an ancestral reason to be, concerned about these resources, but they have the best, resource. They have the ancestral knowledge. And policy recommendations for healthcare integration and conservation, why these 2 things are tied together. Our health is tied to the health of our environments, and that's, more and more like relevant as we kind of go further towards the precipice of climate change. And so it's important to know that, there is still hope. And we just need more people to be aware of this need. And again, advocacy and awareness, just sharing what you know, what you've learned, so other people can kind of continue that chain of gifts. All right. And you can scan this code for a video of our program. And also linked is our website, Facebook, and Instagram. Some of our here, I'll go back here if anyone wants to scan that, sorry. Any questions? Anyone have any? Might be out of time. I don't have any time. You can find me. Our website has an email contact. If you have any questions, reach out. And please enjoy some cute pictures of our staff. All right. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Alexa's here. Hi, Alexa.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm doing my best to get my video on, but it's not being very, very cooperative. I can make that work. Nope, still no. Okay. So, Alexa, that was a great presentation. Thank you so much for running that for us back at the conference. Do you have anything that you wanted to add, like any updates about Grow Hub or your experiences with horticultural therapy since then?
Maybe just that we had our second annual Native Plantapalooza this November, and it went just as well as last year. It was very well attended. We sold lots and lots of native plants. We had another tree giveaway sponsored by the city's urban forestry department. So that's maybe the one major update. We're still kind of chugging along. Yeah, and just looking forward to spring production in the new year.
Okay. We have a question from Maura Davies, asking if you have any book recommendations on this topic.
Oh yeah. So I had mentioned Robin Wall Kimmerer's Braiding Sweetgrass. She has another book more related to moss that Gathering Moss. She has several books. So The Serviceberry and Gathering Moss and Braiding Sweetgrass. I think I mentioned the Serviceberry specifically in the presentation. Those were all just very wonderful books. I think Gathering Moss was her first book. I listened to them as audiobooks and kind of read along as well. Some other great books. Let me just look at my Kindle history because that's something that I've been searching a lot of. I've been doing lots of research on like basket weaving because we've been doing some pine needle weaving with some friends. So that kind of ties in with some plant and indigenous craft and connecting with nature. Let me see. But yeah, Robin Wall Kimmerer, I cannot like sing her praises enough. She's just like a wonderful writer and a great researcher. Oh, and Margaret Rankle. I mean, she is a much more prosaic writer, but just a great like anything about the connection between the seasons and our kind of fluctuating in our lives. And it's a lot more maybe like spiritual-ish. But she's got a book called The Comfort of Crows, and another book that I haven't finished of hers is Late Migrations. But she's a great writer as well. So I'd say those are my top two authors for in this kind of realm of, I don't know, connecting with nature. And yeah.
Awesome. Devlin asks, I know you touched on, having safe plants for the people that are receiving the therapy and working out in the gardens. And so Devlin is asking about specific plant recommendations for those non-toxic plants, but also ones that can help people with disabilities get that feeling of success quickly.
Yeah, I think I just kind of tend to gravitate to those plants that are accessible, easy to grow, and like don't have any like risks as far as like toxins. And it's easy to succeed in. I love Dune sunflower. The flowers, all sunflowers have edible flowers. One of my faves is also spotted horsemint, Monarda punctata, because it has that aromatic value as well. Flowers are beautiful. I know I use it like to, season some of my dishes, and I've used it as a tea as well. I know you shouldn't use too much of it, but it's very strong. So those are great for adding sensory stimulation, but like they're also very easy to grow. Like I just spread Monarda seeds in my yard one year, and like now it's everywhere because I kind of just sprinkle them around like fairy dust. Other easy, non-toxic, there's lots of them. It's just kind of like doing the extra researches, which I always recommend, even if it's like double check if you're still familiar with the plants. But say pennyroyal is wonderful. It's got that sensory aspect of the nice smell. It's edible. It's safe. There's lots of great plants that can be used for therapeutic needs.
Awesome, thank you. I've had good luck seeding Coreopsis, the various species of Coreopsis.
Oh yeah.
I know those are
Yeah,
not
those seed really
like
well.
sensory specifically, but
I don't think they have any, toxic value, so I feel like they're equally nice. I think they I feel like they press really well, so I like using some flowers for crafting and kind of experimented with. Oh, like I don't think I mentioned like Salvia coccinea. Like that's really easy to grow. It's in the Salvia family, so it has that kind of aromatic quality. It kind of, for me, verges on a little like ammonia-y, but it's still, it's a smell. And the flowers press really well because they're a little bit thinner. Some flowers like the Dune sunflower are kind of hard to press because they're really thick. So that kind of adds like a therapeutic feature, I would say, is like you can use them for creativity and, just having the beauty of having growing things.
awesome. DC says, in a general sense, I think that the late Dick Workman, an FNPS founder, was doing some of this work at the Calusa Shell Mounds at Randall Research Center in Pineland, Florida.
That's super cool.
Yeah, he was a cool guy.
Yeah. Wow.
I didn't really know him well, but I did. I put his obituary in the Stable Miner, so he's been recently deceased since I've been at FNPS.
Influential.
Yeah. Maura, the one who asked earlier about book recommendations, says that they're interested in bringing craft activities to seniors.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, there's lots of options. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Lots of options. Do you want to?
I get really excited about craft. Yeah, yes. So like I said, like I have a little like crafty group of people that we meet at least once a month. So we've experimented with lots of different things, but I also worked in memory care and skilled nursing for a couple of years, bringing horticultural crafts through a nonprofit called Elder Grow. So they're like a national company that kind of like, I was a contractor of them, and I brought class materials and plants based on their curriculum, but I kind of learned a lot as far as like what things go well and how to kind of tailor activities to that population. So that's kind of my experience as far as like working with maybe geriatric populations, but and like memory care, it has a lot it's a lot stricter on like safety precautions, as far as like that's where you would want to be really careful of what plants you brought in, that they were completely safe, could be eaten if like on accident, it would be okay. But there's, like I mentioned, flower pressing. That's like something I did a lot. I've really enjoy weaving and using like natural fibers. So there's ways to do like, easy looms where you kind of just, cut notches into large flat pieces of cardboard. You string some maybe jute twine, and you can weave with like natural fibers. You can grab some native grasses, or even flowering plants too. It doesn't have to just be like, kind of simple plain monocot. It could be flowers. on a stem that you kind of weave between the twine. Yeah, and I've been doing some grapevine weaving, and so making wreaths is really easy. I've done it with kids and my little crafty group. I haven't done that with older adults, but I would assume it would be, it's pretty intuitive. It's kind of just wrapping and it's repetitive. And then pine needle weaving is something that is also like, depending on, fine motor and like finger dexterity and like hand strength, like those can be great to introduce. And a lot of older folks have like ties to these crafts. Like I worked for a little while with a woman who was just, she did everything. She did scrapbooking, she, made stickers, she sewed all of her children's clothes. And so I was a volunteer through a hospice, and I visited with her, and we would just talk about crafting, and she taught me how to make pine needle dolls. And like, so there's lots of people that have some kind of experience, even if it's just, oh yeah, my mom used to make our Christmas wreath every year, or yeah, my great grandma made pine needle baskets. So there's kind of these cool ways you can tie into that, the cultural and like ecological heritage, and also give people something to get busy with, you get comfortable when you're just sitting around doing a craft. And so I think that's another aspect that's like very healing and like productive, is like you kind of just, it's like a therapy session for your, mind and body. And there's lots of resources as well for finding activities to do for specific populations. So the Therapeutic Horticulture Activity Database, THAD, is run by UF's Therapeutic Horticulture and the Florida Horticulture for Health Network, and that's a great resource. If I can send the link, because you can select by population and age level and even like theme, I think. And it's a really great resource if you're like working with specific groups or wanting to kind of propose a program. See if I share this link, Valerie, will it?
Yeah, it'll come over in the chat and then I can get it.
Yeah, so that's a great resource because they've like partnered with lots of horticultural therapy networks, like regional networks, and it's pretty expansive, and they're adding to it all the time. So
awesome, that should be very helpful for Maura. Jean Kelly is asking, do you consciously avoid plants that can be more challenging horticulturally, for example, milkweed and pawpaws?
Yes and no. It kind of depends. Like for me personally, and I work at Grow Hub, which is, we're a retail and wholesale nursery, so we're limited already by what can we propagate in the nursery setting. And so yeah, we tend to, we try every once in a while. We're like, let's give it a chance. Like giving Asclepias tuberosa is like kind of the one that comes to mind. It's like would love to have that regularly. It's such an important plant. It's beautiful. It just doesn't like to be in a pot or watered as much as we water our the rest of our plants. Pawpaws we've had a little bit better luck with. But there's so many pawpaws, and we've really only had Acema triloba, which I believe is just kind of the more broad, like southeastern US one. So like, yeah, we haven't had any of like the downy pawpaw, or any of like the more, I'm gonna say niche, but like the ones that like I see more often in my area, at least. Like I don't really carry those.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to work with the setup that you have.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like if we can't keep trying to get like Asclepias tuberosa is like something we tried multiple times and it's like it's just not going to work. Incarnata is way easier to propagate, and we have pretty good luck with Asclepias perennis as well. Try to think. Oh, cardinal flower.
Mhm.
That was what that we like tried so many times. Oh no, cardinal flower. I think we eventually figured out lobelia. It was standing cypress. Standing cypress
Oh,
was
yeah.
like could not like it refused to grow. We would kind of we would get it from another nursery too, which is like somebody had it. And I wasn't doing nurse sourcing. But it's that yeah, you just like through trial and error you find the stuff that does well, is reliable, and people want to buy just because we rely on plant sales for operations.
Kate Muldoon points out that blue curls and scarlet sage, which you mentioned, are easy to grow and
Yeah,
beautiful.
blue curls. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really grew very fond of them this year because they just seem to pop up everywhere at the nursery, and I just really like them. Blue curls and skull cap. Although I hadn't had great luck with it in my own yard, I like really like skull cap because it also has like medicinal properties, and it's one of those like pretty blooms as well.
DC points out that Dick utilized Calusa methods to teach indigenous crafts and tools with native
That's super
plants.
cool.
That's really cool. Yeah, we have a pretty strong, ethnobotany history at FNPS.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's like I am by no means an expert. I like love to learn about it and um, have like tried to gather some information, but yeah, the actual incorporation of those indigenous like teachings is so important and so amazing.
Mm-hmm. DC also points out that some spiritual care providers, often volunteers, have encouraged hospitals and nursing homes to establish gardens for beneficial results with memory care patients and also in hospice settings.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many ways that you can incorporate horticulture in, any stage of life. But yeah, I have kind of had that experience in hospice and in like skilled nursing and memory care, and it can just make them like the biggest difference in somebody's quality of living.
Yeah.
Um, Even the little things like one of my favorite places that I went to because I went to 3 different facilities once a month. They would put bird feeders in front of every window. Not everyone had a window, but most people did, and there was windows in like community spaces. But they put bird feeders, and like it was a priority of theirs to like make sure they were fed and like an opportunity to engage residents as well as like they had nice little garden and like sitting areas, but for most people it's very hard for them to get outside or they can't go outside unsupervised without another person. So giving them the opportunity to still interact with nature somehow through a window, or indoors, which what I did was I brought the plants and we had an indoor garden with its all own setup and lights
Oh,
and
wow.
everything. Yeah. So yeah, it was pretty it was very well organized, and like the design of the garden was like it had everything. The watering can was below. There was like a excess water drainage that went right into where the like watering can storage was. Yeah, it was a great experience being able to bring that like sort of engagement to residents. And like you just get to be known as the plant lady, which was just like great. Like because you just bring joy to people just by like showing up, because I would always have this like giant box of like plants, and sometimes it would be like big sprays of Christmas tree trimmings, or so in a place that can sometimes be very like not as joyful.
Yeah.
You got to bring some joy.
Yeah, the standard way that we, treat older individuals in this country is, I mean, in my opinion, pretty horrifying.
Yeah, the bar's pretty low.
Yeah.
So I got to work in some nice facilities, but there were other ones that were like, kind of the bare minimum, and you really see the difference in the level of care, and it makes a difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that it's very, very expensive to get that higher level of care.
Well, I really appreciate you guys are doing this work up in Gainesville.
Yeah.
Wish there were
We appreciate it.
more of you, throughout the state.
Yeah, there are some other, not exactly similar programs, but there are across Florida, lots of different programs that do, let's say, socially minded agriculture, or care farming is kind of, we're part of the care farming network. And so that's an easy way if people are interested in trying to find similar-ish programs. Not, we're a nursery, so that is a unique part of us, but lots of other programs will do volunteer opportunities or plant sales and the like. And so, I encourage folks to check out the Care Farming Network. It's a great resource. Share that. And thanks for having me today.
Yeah.
Alrighty, I just sent that.
Got it posted. Rory hops in and says, thanks for reminding me of the wisdom of Robin Wall Kimmerer. Don't take the first one, don't take the last one, and don't take more than half.
Yeah. The honorable harvest is like, I feel like it's like, it's applicable to everything. I think everything should be, I think it's a little bit better than just the golden rule. And it just reminds us that, our lives are improved by relationships, and we need to look out for each other. And that includes looking out for the plants that share our space with us.
Yes. Cherice says, awesome job.
Hey, Cherice.
She's watching. You never know who's watching.
I know. Hi, Cherice. Great to hear from you.
And just before we end, I forgot to share this, but I wanted to let everybody know, if I can pull it up quick enough, that our Sea Oats chapter, our former Sea Oats chapter in St. Johns County, is revitalizing itself, and it's renamed, and they're having their first meeting in late January. And I have the little flyer. It'll just pop right up here. Okay. And so, that's January 24th. So if you're in the area of St. Augustine, Northeast Florida, it's going to be called the Beloothahatchee chapter, and the meeting's Saturday, January 24th at Beloothahatchee Park in Fruit Cove. So please attend if you can. Okay, and with that, I will wrap this Lunch and Learn. Check out the Lunch and Learns upcoming at the beginning of the presentation, and I hope to see you guys next month. And thanks again, Alexa.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Happy holidays, everyone.
Yes.